Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the World Championship Series here in Europe. My name is Fear Dragon. I am joined here by Roddy, the legend. What's up, Roddy?
Excited to see how Lambo bounces back after a rather disappointing best of three. I think I know Lambo, and in general, he doesn't worry too much as long as he's not out of the tournament. Only after that, he's like, oh my god, what happened? But in the middle of a group, he's like, maybe this didn't play that well. Things didn't go my way. He's like, I'm sure that he's still full of confidence that he is going to advance out of this group. But let's see if he can actually start the upward trend here against Strange, because, yeah, that first best of three, I don't want to say that he played bad. It was mostly just Clem playing good. But it's very weird to see an entire best of three of Lambo where I barely felt there was anything really outstanding that he did, or like a great fight, a great engagement. Went for some run-bys, but if you don't have the economy for it. So, yeah, let's see if he can keep it together and hopefully play a stronger best of three.
Yeah, and this is going to be a Zerg versus Protoss instead, so maybe he's feeling a little bit better about this. Although, I was just talking with you about this. Some of his recent tournament results, at least in Zerg versus Protoss, do seem to be mostly from WCS Spring, where he did lose to both your boy Goblin as well as Probe. So I'm interested. I think that both of those players are people that usually you'd look at and you'd be like, Lambo should probably win those. So it was a while ago now. It's it's been a month or so. So hopefully he's actually looking really strong now in ZVP.
Yeah, maybe there was just something in the air that weekend. I did cast him this week when he played another best of five against Goblin, and he actually won that one very convincingly, 3-0. And that's kind of what we expect from Lambo. It's really funny because if you go over his spring results, it felt like he had a bad WCS spring. But in the end, he got eliminated by Cerro in a single elimination bracket. So how harsh can we really be? Because who says how deep he could have gone? He did eliminate U-Term on the round of 24. And that's one hell of a best of five, I think, for a round of 24. So it wasn't a bad tournament, but he didn't have as deep of a run as he obviously would have hoped for. But yeah, they all kind of look at that bracket and then they see like, I'm here, and where's that one little Zerg from Finland? Because hopefully he's very far away from me in the bracket. And sometimes you get the bad news. He's like, no, he's actually like 2 slots away. It's like, oh no, that means I'm gonna get him early on, isn't it? It's like, yep, that's often the case.
I think it's just like the curse also for Lambo, where you have such a ridiculously good last year to the point where people were like, he might be able to beat Cyril. He's gotten really close to doing it before.
Yeah, exactly.
And then it's like all the expectations are super high. So when you kind of have that one-off tournament, everyone was like, oh no, Lambo, what happened? It's like, well, come on, guys. I got eliminated by Cyril. Like, this isn't that bad.
Exactly. Anyway, guys, we are ready for our next best of three. This is the lower bracket match of Group C. When it comes to WCS Europe Challenger, we're looking at the main base of our Russian Protoss player. It is Strange.
What's so strange about it?
Nothing really. I mean, Alexei, Strange, no, nothing. I've got nothing, Ravi.
Right. And down here in the bottom right-hand corner of the map, we have the blue Zerg player. He is our German Lambo.
Top 4, WCS Austin and Montreal. That's, of course, what gave him the majority of the points that he collected last year to make it to the global finals at the end of the year. You know that Lambo will settle for nothing but making it to the global finals once again. Anything less would be a disappointment for him at this point. I have to be 100% honest. Like in the beginning of the year, I wasn't exactly sure how strong Lambo would be. I thought last year he maybe overperformed a little bit. Like I thought he was very good. Absolutely within, like, you know, the best 12, 14, 16 of Europe, but that he would actually make it into the global finals. Well, obviously, you've got guys like Special and Neeb racing for those points as well. I was pretty impressed by it, and I was like, I wonder if he can continue this. So far, even though maybe spring wasn't that great, let's go back to winter. He actually had a really good performance, right? He made it into the offline finals, was able to defeat Elaser as well in his opening match.
Yeah.
That was a pretty strong start to the year. So just kind of continuing where he left off last year.
I'm really looking forward to seeing how Lambo's going to do this year. In terms of this matchup, I think almost everyone would look at this, including Strange himself, who I talked to, looks at this as, yeah, probably Lambo's a little bit favored going into this. But I do want to, again, say, like I mentioned this before when Nate was on the desk, but Strange got here by beating some pretty decent players. I mean, he beat he beat Nurchio. Like, these are really solid Zerg players, especially lately. I would say Nurchio has been coming back into form.
Yeah, Nurchio's just No, it's just really funny because he can look great in January, mediocre in February, bad in March, and then great in April again. You just never really know. What I'm mostly curious about is Strange going to play the exact same way, or as very similar at least, like that passive Protoss playstyle that he showcased earlier today against Zero, or did he maybe save some of his more aggressive options for a potential match against Lambo? And I guess we're about to figure it out real soon. But I'd be kind of shocked to see him play exactly the same against Lambo as he did against Cero.
What's kind of funny is that he is going for that target opening, but actually I want to point out also that Lambo is doing the same thing that Cyril did, where he's going for the Overlord speed before Zergling's speed. Just the super fast, I am going to get an immediate scout on you. I know that Lambo is the kind of guy who does talk with a lot of the other European Zerg players, so I wonder if this is like, ooh, Lambo?
He actually just lets a drone, excuse me, the Adept is in the main base. Can we take a look at the main base of Lambo real quick? He just shaded his Adept in. He got a drone kill, but that was kind of weird because there were 4 Zerglings and a Queen right on top of that Adept.
He did exactly that versus Cyril as well, and he got exactly 1 drone there too.
Okay, well, let me just tell you, 1 drone is never enough, guys. Like, you know, I do believe there are some scenarios where if you can get 2 Adepts out and then you shade them in, and let's say you can get 4 or even 5 drones, but even 4 drones, if you can also force out a nice set of Zerglings or 3, 4, you know, that actually makes it all right. People always like, no, the Adepts are so important. It's like, nah, you've got the Oracle. You'll be able to expand. But 1 Adept for 1 drone, it's kind of pointless, and that's not something you should be doing.
Do you feel like it might be a bit of a reaction to the fact that we've seen a lot of Zerg players doing all-ins and stuff, or do you think it's still not early enough information to make a difference in the build?
I really don't think that he sees much with the Adept Shade finishing up that he wouldn't see otherwise. So I just think it's silly, and I think it's a mistake.
Okay. Well, the Phoenix is going to be able to scout out the Speed Overlord, and actually, was that the closest Speed Overlord? Has he gotten any additional scouting information? I guess he hasn't really seen the follow-up over here, which is going to be a difference from the Cyril games.
Yep. I mean, like I said, maybe he saved some of his more aggressive builds for this potential match that he was going to have against Lambo. And this definitely looks very, very different, guys, than a guy that's building Colossus just sits at home. Now, Lambo does have pretty good Zergling positioning. He kind of knows that Strange is still on 2 bases. +1 links. That's not very good against Resonating Glaive. You need Banelings or you need Roaches.
Yeah, I also want to contextualize that in the games versus Cyril, where again, he went for a similar-ish opening, but obviously changed this up into going for a lot of these gateways and the Resonating Glaives. He got his 3rd base versus Cyril at almost 6 minutes. So now getting it versus 5 minutes, I wonder what Lambo's going to be thinking, because he's still droning up right now.
Yep, but he does have that Baneling nest. That is a very, very important building, guys. If he wasn't building a Von Phoenix goes down there. That's a bit sloppy as well. Okay, he has to stop building drones at this point because you need a lot of links, because a lot of your links are going to morph into Banelings as well. But you can't only have Banelings, guys, because then if the Adepts spread out, you can't actually engage. You need a combination of both Lings and Banes. Okay, so I'm very worried here for Lambo.
He just saw all of the Adepts making their way across the map. +1 missile attack is on the way, but it's only about halfway done right now.
Melee.
Not even. This is a really, really tough spot for Lambo, but if he gets the Baneling hits of his life, he could maybe make some magic happen.
Yeah, but like I said, you need more than just a couple of Banelings. He's going to start losing a couple of drones here. This is nice for Strange as well, because now he knows where all of the Queens are. He should be able to pick up the Queen in the front, and that was the Queen with most energy as well. I wouldn't mind if he cancels this Shade, and that is exactly what he does. Now he's got all the time in the world to spread these Adepts, man. This is actually working out so well for Strange. This is working out phenomenally well.
And he's got a really nice spread on those Adepts as well. So this Baneling struggling. He does let that Shade finish. Has to respread his Adepts. So the Banelings aren't here in time. So they are going to get a couple of hits off. But honestly, it's not exactly the best hits of his life.
No, and there are more Adepts as well that came in. As you can take a look at the Ds. Fighting the Queen. You don't want to fight the Spine Crawler, though. I'm actually amazed that Lambo has only lost 5 drones so far. He's going to end up losing a few more. I think Strange could have done that a little bit better when he shaded into the natural. I love the beginning of his attack, and I still think it's all right. I don't think he's in trouble or anything. I just felt like, oh, did he just F2 that stalker to the other side of the map? That's kind of what that looks like. But when he shaded all of the Adepts in the natural, there were actually multiple choke points that he could have utilized so well. You grab one Adept, you put it on hold position between the Extractor, you run the others away, you put another one on hold position between the Evo Chamber and the Hatchery. If we can take a look at the natural of Lambo real quick. Would that be possible? Like, there were a couple of really good spots. One Adept between the gases, one Adept between the gas and, or excuse me, the hatch and the Evo chamber. And it would have been so hard for Lambo to actually clean it up. But multiple Banelings connected with 3 Adepts. So not bad by Strange, but there was some potential to get even more done than what he did.
Yeah, I want to compliment Lambo really quickly on that because he did get the lings there very quickly to prevent the additional movement and made it a little bit harder. Yeah, if he had been able to get to those spots, that would have been awesome. Now, while of course Strange did invest a lot of those adepts and of course did delay, say, his immortal production, he's only got 1 immortal on the map and everything, Lambo also only is now finishing up his layers. You can see it was a delay on both sides, and here we go, a little bit of round 2 coming out from Strange with the immortal and the warp prism moving across the map with those sentries.
Yeah, Lambo has lings here, so he scouts it, but once again, I'm very worried, guys. Lambo actually drone up all the way to 74. He does still have that 1 spine. He's going to build another one immediately. He's building roaches, but those are slow roaches, so maybe morph them into ravages as quickly as you can, so he can break a couple of these force fields. But he needs magical bailing hits, but without bailing speed, it just seems like that is going to be rather difficult. It is doable. He does have +1, and that helps out a little bit. There's a Forge on the way, by the way, for Strange. What a weird moment to get a Strange. It's like this, or to get a Forge. It feels like this is a game-deciding attack. That is a lot of adepts, Ravi.
Yeah, he's also got a lot of energy for these force fields to keep those banelings out, and all of the banelings are on the low ground right now, so he just force fields out everything and goes up to the high ground. No, there's a handful of those banelings sitting in the natural now.
I think Strange is kind of confused about what he's doing. He just force fielded his own attack out.
He can't go in.
He's like, I probably should have dropped the force fields on the ramp, right? It's like, yeah, that's probably what you wanted to do. And he's indeed going to go for it now.
Baneling drops. Going to be coming on in. He gets right on top of those sentries, so no more force fields going to be available anymore. Maybe he has 1 available at most. Does he still have enough, though? There's not that many banelings left over.
No more Banes coming in. It's important to spread these adepts a little bit. Strange, and he does do it in the end. He's going to warp in a few more adepts. Now the adepts will start entering the natural as well, and it feels like Lambo is simply running out of units, guys. Wow, Strange taking the 1-0 lead over Lambo with a pretty cool build as well. And now it's really starting to get dicey for Lambo.
Yeah, Lambo now in an elimination match when I think, well, I think as Nate said, this is a group where second place is a lot more open. I still think that a lot of people would have said, yeah, Lambo's got a little bit of the favoritism coming into this. And now 1 game away from elimination. It's kind of nuts.
Yep, especially because it still feels that almost nothing has gone Lambo's way today. That series against Clam really was not his place to make any plays. He was just kind of following the lead that Clam was laying out for him. And this game, Strange just kind of threw a curveball there, showed up with all of those adepts, and I think +1 link builds are not ideal against adepts. Like, there are some scenarios where it can work, but above, I think he was a bit too greedy, right? It's completely okay to not go above 50 drones against one of the big adepts attacks, because all you need to do is just crush that first attack, and then you've got all the freedom in the world to drone up behind it. But it took so long, and a lot of drones bouncing between bases, couple queens going down, that even when eventually you clean it up, did you really clean it up? Because you know more is coming, and it just felt that Lambo had to cut some corners trying to catch up to where he wanted to be and wasn't ready for it in the end. Strong game by Strange, though. Really strong performance out of him.
And that's exactly what I was kind of hoping was going to be the case, where he goes up versus Sarah, and I was like, okay, I'm just not going to show my hand too much on sort of what I have available or plan. I'm going to play like a normal-ish game versus Cyril. It might seem like suicide versus someone like Cyril, but it prepares him a lot better for the match versus Lambo. And hey, remember, if he wins this, he's got a whole PvT matchup that he hasn't really revealed any of his strategies for versus potentially Clem, if Clem ends up losing versus Cyril. I'll put that little addendum there.
Strange against Clem as the decider match in this group, that could actually get kind of wild. And a lot of the Europeans say, you know, that qualifying for Challenger is incredibly difficult. They feel like that's more difficult than the open bracket at like a circuit event or something like that. They're like, it's so hard. There's only 16 spots, and like 4 or 5 of those spots you can already fill in the names before the tournament starts. So for Strange to make it to Challenger, first of all, it's already very impressive. Like you said, he beat a couple of very good players to get here. Now taking the 1-0 lead over Lambo. I mean, I don't want to call it a breakout performance, because Strange has had these in the past, and he's a Protoss player that some moments plays a lot and then gets really high up on the ladder, gets a couple of great victories, and then just kind of stops again, or then he falls off the radar. But looking good so far.
No, I'm really excited for him, because I know he came into today, and I was talking to him, he was saying, like, yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if I kind of get 0-4. Like, it's a really tough group in a lot of ways, but it is really cool to see him doing well, because I remember the last time he broke out, quote unquote, like you were saying, like a year ago or something. It was like when he was using the carriers and stuff a lot, but he is the kind of player that he will play in tournaments, and then he'll just take like 3 to 5 months off. You just don't see any tournaments from him whatsoever. Maybe he's still in the ladder a little bit here and there, but he definitely is the kind of player who disappears. So I really want to see how he's going to be able to do in game number 2, because that first game, like you said, he caught Lambo off guard multiple times. With the first attack, and then Lambo had to cut corners. The second attack came in, and he was able to punish him. Can he repeat that, though? That's not always an easy ask.
I don't think that's a build that you can do more than once in a best of 3. Maybe in game 3 if you can somehow sell it in a very convincing way. But you know what I just chuckled about is that this all even started with him just kind of sacrificing his first adept. He's like, hey, here's an adept. I don't really need it. Lamb was like, oh, cool, that's nice, man. Like a drone for an adept, that's a pretty good trade. It's like, surprise, I've got 14 more.
Actually, yeah, that's one of the things I've heard like Protoss players talk about, or even some Zerg players are like, yeah, if they're being super conservative with their first adept, sometimes it's like, okay, they're saving this for the follow-up attack. So it's like a little bit just leading into the mind game for that, like, no, these adepts are not that important to me.
I'm still not gonna totally buy it, and I'm still not gonna tell the people at home, like, yeah, absolutely send in your first adept and lose it for a drone. It's a great move, but hey, it did work out. So far, so good for the Russian Protoss. Up 1-0, most likely just gonna go for a regular 1-gate fast expand here on Acropolis. What a beautiful, happy little map, isn't this?
Yeah, nice bright map. I'm glad that we have some of those bright maps in the ladder map pool. Makes people a lot more cheerful on the ladder. It doesn't actually.
It makes me more cheerful. I absolutely do believe in it a little bit.
And you get to play all 7 maps because you don't veto maps, Kev.
Nope.
You got passion.
I mean, it keeps it fresh, right?
Yeah.
Just veto the last map I played. That's a little trick. I see a lot of people like, oh man, I keep playing the same map over and over again. It's like, well, just follow my little method. Like, I always veto the last map I play, so every ladder game, I start on a brand new map. And obviously, sometimes you go back and forth a little bit, right? It's like, Acropolis, new repugnancy. Acropolis, new repugnancy. Acropolis, new repugnancy. It happens, but it's still, in my opinion, it's better than playing 4 times King's Cove in a row or something, because I get kind of bored of that.
Yeah, I feel like I need to actually start picking up that method, because I swear, sometimes I'm like, okay, new ladder map season, let's play some new maps. I don't veto any maps, and it's just like 16 games on all of the old maps. I'm like, but there are 3 new maps, guys. Why is everyone not playing them?
Yeah, that's actually one more thing that I like to do. If we do get like a brand new patch, new ladder season, we've got 3 or even 4 new maps, then I often do veto the first 2 or 3 days. I veto the maps that I'm already familiar with.
Yeah.
So every single game is on a brand new map, because I think that's the best way to get familiar and comfortable on some of these new maps.
Yeah.
So far this PvZ, guys, nothing out of the ordinary. We've got a couple of safety links on the way, the first Queen's on the way, Zergling Speed on the way. Lambo seemed a little fired up in the lobby chat. He didn't say anything bad or something, but he was just kind of spamming. He's like, go, 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 go. So he's clearly ready to avenge that loss, because we know that those are the kind of losses that probably sting a little bit for Lambo.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, well, the probe is going to get chased off before technically scouts that drone over by the 3rd base. And I mean, just based on the fact that that first adept keeps sacrificing its life to get some, I guess, 1 drone and I guess some scouting information, it really does seem like Strange really wants to get an eye on exactly what his opponent is up to in the early game.
Yeah. Lambo not exactly known for his crazy Zerg versus Protoss cheeses either, in my opinion. Like, in ZvZ, I wouldn't trust him, okay, guys?
Yeah.
Like, I wouldn't invite it. I wouldn't put my life on the line saying that he won't all in you in ZvZ, because I've seen that more than once. But in ZVP in general, Lambos is very confident. And is he gonna let this finish up again? Yes, he does.
He's not even okay. Is he gonna even try and shit it out?
Might get
He's not even bothering to try and shit it out again.
He might get 2 drones this time.
Oh, okay.
It's a bit sloppy by Lambo, because we could see that he both times tried to morph the drone into a spore crawler. I actually think that these are one of these small things where you can maybe see that Lambo's not in his A+ game today, because you can kind of calculate where that adept is going, which drones are in danger. I think he could have handled that a little bit better. Obviously, it's nice for Strange to get 2 drones this game. I mean, I still don't know if I like it or not, but with 2 drones, I can sort of live with it. 1 drone, I think, is never a good trade.
Yeah, another quick note is, funny enough, even though this is the standard thing to do, I would say most of the time, this is the first ZVP today that we've seen a Zerg player not go for Overlord speed before Zergling speed. In fact, no Overlord speed whatsoever. So it does make it a little bit harder for Lambo to get the scout out. And considering that was kind of what cost him the last game, it is sort of interesting that he's going for that mix-up.
Yeah, obviously opening up with Overlord speed, it's nice when you get the information, but often against certain builds, a lot of Zerg players will say you get the information a little bit too late, right?
Yeah.
It's like, oh, I'm getting 8-gate resonating glaive all in. It's like, well, what do I have? Not much, you know? So maybe Lambo has been experimenting with it, because we know that Serral does love getting that upgrade early on, and obviously a lot of Zerg players are like, well, if Serral loves it, then maybe I should start opening up with it as well. But maybe Lambo is just not that, you know, familiar or comfortable yet with the timings. It may seem like a small investment, but it really does throw everything else off a little bit as well. It's still a big investment in your opening build.
All right, we got a couple of those sentries being warped in back at home for Strange. That's going to allow him to set up that third base, and if he really needs to, go for some hallucinating Phoenix scouts. But he's got real Phoenix. He's got plenty of scouting information from just those. And they're going to continue darting around the map.
+1 on the way for Strange. That's very early for you know, most Protoss builds in this matchup. Not something that we see super often. I don't like him going for the Queen there because there are plenty of Queens nearby. So it takes a lot of damage on the Phoenix, but it keeps them alive, and that's the most important thing. So far, once again, guys, a pretty clean start here by Strange. He doesn't really make any errors. Macro looks on point. Obviously, you know, there's not too much to mess up here. The only thing I'm a bit surprised by is that he is still just kind of sitting comfortably on his two bases. The Lings are going to see this army move out, and I'm pretty sure that if I'm Lambo right now, I think like, okay, this Protoss is definitely attacking me. He's definitely about to all-in me, because I haven't seen him give any indications yet that I want to expand. And Lambo's already at 57 workers, so that's kind of when you want to get a couple of workers out. But actually, a really good read here by Lambo. He just goes back to droning, and that's the right thing to do.
Yeah, it really does seem like Strange is actually playing this out just like that first game versus Serral, where he adds on the robotics bay, gets up that third around 6 minutes, and then just gets up a bunch of Colossus. Ooh, hallucinate! I love this. Hallucinating a warfare.
That's
This
really
is going
cool.
into what you were saying,
Wow.
where Lambo's probably thinking like, oh, there's probably some attack coming, and if he sees that, that's always an indicator that there's an attack coming.
I actually really like this. Lambo sees his little army. Look at Lambo's vision. This is like all alarm bells go off immediately. Baneling nest, 16 links, couple of roaches gonna morph into ravages, 20 links. This is actually a 200 IQ big brain gaming play. The Strange does not want to attack here at all, guys. He's getting ready for Colossus.
You just recall out of here, right?
Yeah, I mean, you still have the force fields, right?
Yeah.
So
Oh, that's true.
I think he just wants to really scare Lambo.
Would you rather use the recall or the force fields to get out?
I mean, if you're 100% sure that all units survive, obviously I think you would rather use recall, because I don't think he needs another recall in the next 2 or 3 minutes of this game. But there are some moments where if you do get swarmed, it's probably better to drop some force fields.
Yeah.
Because with recall, it's like, oh, can I get out of here? It's like, yeah, -3 sentries. And you're like, no. It's a lot of energy, by the way, on these Phoenixes, so they can actually be a little more annoying than they've been so far. But this little move out did really accomplish quite a bit. 64 against 64 workers, and I don't know, how do you feel about the +1 melee that's on the way for Lambo? I feel like that's not going to have a massive impact in this game.
He started that up, I think, before the attack was even coming, so maybe he's forced to change up his game plan a little bit from here, and it's going to be a little bit less useful. But I mean, yeah, I feel like it's going to be really hard to make a lot of use for it when he's going to be up against a bunch of Colossus. And even all those units forced out earlier on, he's not exactly going to have the most amazing economy that he was hoping for before.
So I think it's going to be like Ling, Bane, Ravager, Corruptor. Is that what Lambo's going to aim for? Because obviously he needs something that's going to be very good against these Colossus. And I don't think you can just make Lings, Banes, and Roaches forever. So I'd kind of like to see a couple of Corruptors and then just go for the old school logic of just clicking the Corruptors on the Colossus and hoping that you can swarm him on the ground. And in that way, that +1 melee and eventually +2 melee will obviously pay off. But this is going to be dicey, guys. Lambo's tournament life is on the line. Last season in Challenger, he went out in the group stage. You know, obviously it's not the end of the world. How you perform in circuit events or WCS Winter is obviously a little more important. But if you do want to make it to the global finals at the end of the year, it's important to at least have 1 or 2 good runs in these challengers. I'd be surprised to see back-to-back exits in the group stage of Challenger for Lambo.
Yeah, that would be really, really tough for him. There are those Corruptors being added on that you were talking about. And I want to note that the Hive is also finishing up. So he does have the potential for a greater Spire to come up in the near future if he so feels inclined. One of these Phoenix gets a little bit lower on hit points. He's going to dart back in. He's seen the Infestation P. He's going to go toward the natural expansion. If he goes all the way toward the main, he is going to get a chance to see that Hive.
Yep. I think he's kind of expecting it at this point. I mean, even though Strange did slow down Lambo a little bit throughout this game with a couple of his moves, the move out, you know, the adapt, pressure, harass, whatever it was, and a couple of Phoenixes being annoying, Lambo still has a maxed out army at this point. Probably wants to wait for +2. He's getting +1 flyer attacks before Great Aspire, by the way.
Oh.
I don't hate it, because I think that Lambo knows the most important unit of this army is the Colossus. If he takes care of the Colossus, his Lings, Banes, and Ravages will absolutely take care of the rest. So I kind of like him prioritizing surviving a lot more than trying to get a Broodlord timing or something.
So Kev, talking about Strange's army, you're talking about how the Colossus is the most important unit. He
Yeah.
actually only has 3 of those, and yes, he got it at the Templar Archives, but he never went for Storm or anything, which I know Protoss players have had mixed feelings on lately about how good Storm really is to deal with, say, Corruptors and stuff. But I mean, I'm kind of with you. I feel like the Colossus are the most important part of the army.
Yes.
But he doesn't have that many, and I don't really see the next transition point to get a useful unit up.
Well, I think ideally you just get a somewhat decent fight, and then he gets a lot more Stalkers, and he's going to try to win the game with Blink Stalkers and Zealots. Like, it's not the craziest thing in the world. And he also knows that his Colossus forced out Corruptors. I still think that Lambo's army is good enough. I find that 3 High Templar is a bit overkill. I understand getting 1 for feedback, maybe 2. But 3 is an odd number, right? Because 1 is always just going to stay in High Templar. A couple force fields do go down Ravi. Here we go. Lambo's tournament live is on the line.
All right, first Colossus gets picked off. The Banelings trying to come in from the backside. That Colossus getting a lot of damage onto the Banelings. Not that many of them connect, but most of the Colossus have been taken care of, and there's a lot of Stalkers still left alive. Strange, he's got a lot of army supply, and he's taking out one of these bases.
And you know the sickest thing here? That one of the Colossus is still alive. I have no idea what the Corruptors were doing, but it felt like they should have been able to take care of all 3 Colossus.
The Warp Prism is still alive
Yep,
as well.
because it was way in the back of the army. Now most force field energy is gone. This time the Colossus does go down. The Warp Prism goes down as well. Can Lambo survive? That's a lot of Lings and Banes streaming in.
Oh, the Banelings get some really good hits on a lot of those Stalkers, but a few of them blink back. There's more Banelings streaming on in, and it does seem like it's barely going to start pushing it back. Strange. Was the base snipe off in all those units enough? Is Strange okay? I mean, the supply kind of tells a different tale.
No, I don't think Strange is okay. I think he's lost a little too much there. It's really funny because it felt very, very promising for Strange. I think that first battle actually went really good, even if he lost 2 out of 3 Colossus. I just think he left the Prism to be super, super exposed. They just kind of flew it right past the Corruptors, and they're like, well, we've got nothing else to do because that Colossus is super low on HP and is going to go down anyway. So we'll get both. While in the previous fight, Strange actually did an awesome job in keeping the Warp Prism way further south, so it was never in any danger of dying, and that's why it felt like he won that battle with an overwhelming amount of units. But obviously, those were his reinforcements already as well.
Yeah. He also ran out of all those force fields, so when all the Banelings started coming into the Stalkers and stuff, it's like that was actually through a single force fieldable ramp. So if he had had any energy left over on those sentries, that could have made a world of difference in at least keeping the Stalkers alive. But here we go, a couple of force fields used. He has a few more left over. He has a big warp-in of Zealots and Stalkers over here. But I mean, he is still so far down supply. He needs better than just an okay engagement. He needs a miracle one, and that's not it.
Nope, the Zealots are just charging into the Banelings. This feels like the swarm is truly here right now for Lambo, and finally, Lambo has a couple of things going his way as he's going to pick up these last few Stalkers. 27 probes went down as well, and most likely that's going to be it for this game. GG. Lambo wins. But you know what I'm thinking of? You mentioned the force field energy there, right after that first battle.
Yeah.
And you're absolutely spot on, because obviously the sentries were super useless there. They just kind of sitting there, Banelings roll in, and they died. I actually think that if Strange just takes a little breather, because that was a really good fight. He had 1 Archon in the mix. What did he die to in the end? Basically the 80 Zerglings or something that Lambo produced, and all of the extra Banelings come in. If he just gets that Warp Prism on the left side of his Stalkers, and instead of going up that ramp immediately, he's like, let's get 3 Archons. You know, he still had 1 little High Templar that couldn't be an Archon, because he started the battle with 3. If he gets 2 extra Archons there, what are all these Lings going to do? They're going to run into Stalker Archon. I mean, there's almost no good engagement there ever. The Roach count wasn't overwhelming. I think Strange just got a little ahead of himself. He's like, oh my god, that went so good. He's like, I'm up the ramp and I'm going to get in the middle of all the reinforcements. But Lambo had so many units on the way that it was just barely enough. But I think if you look at that army and look at the money that Strange had, by the way, so he could have easily afforded it.
Yeah.
3 Archons, I think he wins the game there.
Yeah, I mean, especially the Archons, considering they have those weapon upgrades that he invested so early into that Forge and everything you were talking about. So that would have been really helpful versus those Lings. But, you know, he can take some of those lessons learned, hopefully, into game number 3 because it's now a tied-up series, 1-1. Lambo is still at that point where if he loses this game, he's out of Challenger. And, of course, that's going to be the same for Strange, but I think it's maybe a little bit more pressure on Lambo because he was probably expecting to make it a little bit further.
Yeah, to Strange's defense, I think maybe he was worried about Broodlords. Maybe he thought he was on the clock, right? And he's like, okay, Stalkers are good against Broods.
You did see the Hive and everything.
Exactly, he saw the Hive, and he also knew that a bunch of Corruptors saved that fight. So in his defense, maybe he's like, okay, he's going to try to morph Broodlords. I'm just going to run up there. But yeah, in the end, it was the Lings and the Banes that really kind of pushed that army back. And once he got pushed back, it was kind of over at that point because he's like, well, I've got one Robo and a lot of Stalkers, and that's about it. But I mean, if he would have wiped in 2-3 extra Archons there, I honestly think that Strange wins that game and takes the series 2-0. That would have been crazy.
Yeah, I mean, it even also goes back to the same thing you were saying before, because I was talking about how, you know, he only has 3 Colossus. It doesn't seem like there's a lot of other power units coming out after this. Because you were saying the hope here is that you just warp in a lot more Stalkers and maybe some Zealots, and then you win the game. So when you have that kind of game plan, you are on a clock. There is a clock, but to your point, yeah, maybe there was just a little bit more time than he anticipated. It looks like our next map is going to be Thunderbird, though. I'm happy. We've been getting to see a lot of the new maps in these Challenger matches, and that makes me happy.
Yeah, they're good maps, right, this season. I don't think we have anything to complain about other than to echo your sentiments. They're a little dark, you know, not Acropolis. I like the tile set on Acropolis, but I don't want too many dark maps, man. Like, you know, like StarCraft can already be rough, and I don't want to lose on a dark map after dark map after dark map. It's like, let me lose on a beach, you know, like bring back Ohana Beach. If I then lose, like, you know what, life isn't
Guan
that
Valley
bad.
Beach,
I would not have any issues with it. But I think this is an awesome map. Obviously, you know, the mineral patches, we've been talking about it a lot already. But it's cool. It definitely brings a new dynamic to the game. And I mean, it's awesome to see that 9 years into StarCraft 2, that we're still getting brand new map features.
Yeah. You know what, actually, I always wonder sometimes if the obsession with darker maps actually comes from Brood War. Because I remember there used to be a thing in Brood War where the pros, all the like Korean pros and Kespa and stuff would complain every single time we had a snow map because it was so bright in Brood War. It actually did pain your eyes. And I always wonder, like, we always had so many dark maps in Brood War because of that. Maybe that kind of that sentiment carried over to StarCraft 2 a little bit.
Actually, in Warcraft 3, people hated the ice maps as well.
Oh, really?
Yeah. They're like, no snow, no ice. Everything needs to be green all the time.
Death Knight is too strong on the ice maps.
No, nobody ever said anything about the Death Knight. I mean, besides our good friend Johan Letard Merlot, he's like, Undead is unbeatable right now. That's it, I'm going to Vegas for a month. I was like, wow,
I thought he always hated Orc.
He did. And then he hated Night Elf. Then he hated them both. But right now, it's all about Undead, so.
Oh, he never hated Human. Huh, that's so interesting. What reason?
Actually, Human vs. Human is pretty silly.
I cannot wait to watch Johan Merlot when Warcraft 3 Remastered comes out. Or Reforged, sorry.
I mean, I hope for you then that there is going to be a patch soon. Otherwise, I'm not sure if we'll see it.
No, I'm hoping for the Ultimate Salt.
Well, there's been enough.
Johan Merlot is my Artosis for Warcraft.
He's great.
Yeah.
He was having so much fun when I played a couple of games of Warcraft 3, and like, man, Keeper is really strong. It's like, my unit is just stuck here for 20 seconds, and I can't possibly save it. He's like, yeah, you see, how does it feel right now? And I was like, oh. I was like, you know what, back to StarCraft, let's make some Phoenix. It's all good for me. So let's see what's going to happen here on Thunderbird. Obviously, Strange has showed us 2 completely different playstyles. So far, game 1 was very aggressive, pretty all-in-y, you know, a lot of commitment. Game 2 was a little more defense-oriented. I love the mind games that he tried to sprinkle in there. You know, we're moving out with the sentries, the Immortal, showing the fake prism. I honestly thought it was a very, very cool play. And maybe not game-ending, game-deciding, but it's just like the small stuff. Every little victory counts, and you absolutely do get little victories out of that.
Yeah, I'd love to hear your thoughts actually on Thunderbird specifically, because I really do feel like your 4th base becomes this huge target as a Protoss player, trying to set it up on this map, especially versus those big concaves that you can face off against. And we kind of saw a little bit of it in Strange versus Serral. Granted, that was versus Serral, so it's a little bit difficult anyways, but I do wonder if this is going to be one of those maps you're more likely to see Strange get a bit more in Lambo's face.
Yeah, it's possible though, right? Like obviously, Lambo's fort is going to be exposed as well, so you can say what goes for the Zerg or what goes for the Protoss will go for the Zerg as well. But I think a lot of the attacks, they become a little bit predictable in general. Everything comes through the middle of the map. I think this is a really good map for Stargate play. I wouldn't even mind seeing some heavy Stargate. I feel like Strange has been getting reasonable amounts of damage done with his Phoenix. He's just going to go for it again here. Wants to get the drones. Gets the first one. Should be able to get two now. Yep. Wow, getting it.
Handling.
Handling.
Not bad.
I mean, 2 is a lot better than 1, guys. It's a funny way of playing, but it is, like you said, maybe he's just a bit traumatized of getting all in over and over again by certain Zergs, and he's like, you know what? I'll make sure to stick around and know exactly what is happening.
Yeah, and the kind of nice thing is also he guts into the main base, so he's going to see that Zergling's speed was getting research if he pays attention to that pool wiggling and jiggling. So that means he doesn't have to worry about the Overlord speed coming in like game number 1 happened, or his series versus Serral. So, goes up for the Oracle, which immediately is going to get scouted out. So, Lambo has an idea that it's not just going to be a lot of Phoenix. Got that Oracle follow-up to worry about. Alright, and Overlord is going to get picked off. We'll see, does Strange decide to go for another one of those fast all-ins, or is it going to be a third base around like 5 to 6 minutes?
I really wouldn't mind double Stargate here, but it's going to be a Robo for now. Now, obviously, that doesn't really tell us anything. He could potentially play very similar to what he did on Acropolis, but maybe even slightly more defensive. It is interesting. Roach Warren, by the way. You can obviously see that Lambo wants to make sure that no crazy things are going to happen this game.
Yeah.
Phoenix will lift up the Queen. Oracle dives in. It's actually not too bad. Does only get a single kill and takes a lot of damage. But at least all of the drones were pulled away for a split second there. So a little bit of economic damage done.
Yeah, and Lambo still gets up to a pretty decent drone count. Adding on another 4 is going to take him into the 50s while he gets up that Roach Warren. We got the Forge being added on once again, nice and early on here for Strange before he even takes his third base. And there is that third base. Ling actually gets a perfect scout on this and might even be able to... No, Stalker in the wall. So not going to be able to make its way further in. Actually, so Roddy, here's the play, right? Game number 2, you hallucinate the Warp Prism and fake out. Game number 3, you got a real Warp Prism. Do the exact same thing.
No. I mean, I wouldn't hate it, but
yeah,
I think he's
probably
obviously
not.
building a few too many probes already to be incredibly committed to an attack. He's already at 49. We see more probes on the way. Now Lambo is making a couple of roaches. Obviously these are safety roaches. He will go back into droning for a little bit as soon as he knows that he is actually safe and he can get away with that. I think it can be a bit frustrating for Zerg players to scout on this map, because every time you run in a Ling on that ramp, obviously the Protoss units are right there waiting for you.
Path.
Yep, so you're like, okay, what is exactly happening? And since it was a Stargate opener, you can't have an Overlord either. So for us, we see nothing too weird, nothing too crazy is happening. If you're Lambo right now, you're pretty terrified about one of the many magic Protoss things could potentially happen to you.
And in the meanwhile, Strange has been keeping an eye on everything with both the Oracle and the Phoenix, which he's done a good job. You know, that Oracle took a lot of damage in the early game, but he's kept it alive this entire time. And the Phoenix even gets back into the main base, is going to scout around for any kind of tech, and he looks like he is going to miss that Spire, just starting around the edges. I actually really like that positioning for Lambo, because this is the pathway that most Phoenix will take. They'll take it around the corners so they have an easy escape path. Nicely done. The Hydra Den does also come down behind this, but we'll see. Strange adds on that Robotics Bay once again. Most likely wants to go to those Colossus again. Did Lambo get the Spire before the Robotics Bay last game?
Actually, not 100% sure. I'm kind of trying to figure out where Strange exactly is going with this, but it just kind of seems like he is okay with playing a longer passive game. But this is obviously a map where it's like, if you are going to sit back, he's going to give a lot of time to Lambo, and Lambo's going to be like, well, cool, I guess then I will start heading towards Broodlords. Like, I'm definitely not expecting him to go +1 flyer attacks this game before a Great Aspire. I felt that was kind of situational in the last game, and I think he had a really good read on where Strange wanted to go with his build. But the pacing of this entire game, once again, that triple hallucination scout, by the way, that we saw before, the pacing of this game just feels a little different to me. So I am expecting Broodlords out of Lambo, and I kind of wonder what Strange is going to do, because, yeah, I mean, Zerg, or as Protoss, can get up to pretty strong armies, But eventually things can get a little bit dicey. By the way, there's Storm being researched this time, so it is definitely a very different touch out of Strange this time.
Wait, did he?
He got
he
a
didn't use the robotics. Did he cancel it?
Yep, he canceled it.
Yeah.
Did it get scouted and did he then cancel it?
Because that would. I know there was an overseer running around in that time.
If you take a look at the vision of Lambo, and then you take a look at the main base of Strange, guys, there was a building right next to the gas, and now it's gone. So once again, Strange with a couple of mind games. He's going to try to maybe hit some sort of storm time. This time there is +1 flyer attacks. It is working. The mind game is actually working here, Ravi.
Oh boy, there's going to be so many useless, completely useless corruptors, but it's still Roach production right now. When is he actually going to start up those corruptors? Because if he realizes this before he starts them, well, you can cancel that +1 flyer attack, and it's not as bad of a spot.
Second Stargate Fleet Beacon on the way for Strange. Like, I kind of feel like if you are making these kind of mind games work, I'd love to see him hit like some sort of a crazy timing. Now, obviously, his army's not big enough for it yet, but a couple of Archons, he should have Blink.
No, he doesn't. It's just charge.
Why does he have 8 Stalkers? 8 Stalkers is a lot, by the way, to not have Blink. It kind of feels like Strange is doing a little bit of everything. I look at his army right now, and it's like, yeah, you've got Storm, and Storm is really good. But that's like the only thing that's really good about his army.
Okay, well, he does manage to storm a lot of the Banelings, but he gets hit from both sides. The High Templars, a little bit vulnerable there, but the Banelings come rolling on, and he's forced to morph everything into an Archon, and Strange's army is actually getting annihilated here, Roddy. Whatever plans he had, they're not going to come to fruition this game.
No, it was simply a little too exposed there, right? He was just setting himself up almost for the surround. That pylon went down on the right side as well when he just wiped in 7 or 8 more Zealots, so those never finished up. But I'm not even sure if those Zealots would have made the difference. One more Mortar is going to show up, but it feels like a kind of a sad fight. One Phoenix is like, I'm trying over here, guys. Picking up Ravager after Ravager, but Strange is running out of steam here.
Yeah.
I mean, nobody ever wants to morph all 6 High Templars into Archons to keep him alive. He was simply a little bit out of position, and he just was way too exposed there.
Well, Lambo cleans up that series and keeps his hopes alive, as I'm sure he's going to be very happy about that as he moves into that decider match. See if he still has a shot at making it out of this group. But, you know, I do want to give a shout out to Strange. He did come in as a big underdog in this match. Maybe there were some nerves coming into play or something, but still showed some really good games and showed opportunities in that last game still to make some magic happen.
Yeah, definitely like the mind games that he's trying to throw in there. He's definitely not a predictable Protoss. He tries to keep the Zerg on the edge, and I think he did a pretty good job in doing so. Even that last game, forcing out the +1 flyer attacks, well, he was not making any air units at that point, and obviously never actually committed to the Colossus either. It's kind of a shame always when there is like such a big build-up, right? And it feels like certain things were going the way of our Russian Protoss, but then just didn't really know where the units were coming from. But I think even if he did, like, his army was just not that impressive to me. It was 2-3 Immortals. I think there was 1 Archon in the mix. 8 Stalkers without Blink. It's like, well, what are those going to achieve? And, like, Storm is great, guys. And Storm can absolutely... I mean, Storm has decided a lot of games over the history of StarCraft 2. But you can't just rely on Storm. There always needs to be something else. Because Storm deals damage, but something else needs to deal that finishing blow. But he just had nothing to actually deal that finishing blow.
All right. Well, we'll see. The next match, by the way, is going to determine who exactly Lambo will face off against. As we just saw on the schedule, that next match is going to be Clem versus Cyril. Kevin, do you have any predictions on that match? I mean, there's the obvious one, but I want to hear more detail than just who will win.
Can I stick to the obvious one now?
Yeah,
I think it's going to be good because Clem did play an awesome best of 3 against Lambo. And I know, guys, Lambo may not be Cero, but Lambo's really freaking good as well. So if Clem can just get some momentum going, if he can get those first little victories in the game, there's a chance that maybe it starts snowballing. And I do expect a really competitive best of 3, but obviously I'm going to go with the boring pick. And that is that I think Cero is going to win.
Yeah, that's absolutely fair. All right, well, that next match is going to be coming up in just a little bit. Don't go anywhere. We're going to be finding out who exactly is going to be facing off versus Lambo in that decider match. And after that, we're going to be going to WCS North America. So we'll see you guys in a little bit with Zerg versus Terran.